Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Brianna Lightfoot Smith, the mom and mom of three and me, and I'm so glad that you joined me. If you have not already, go check out my very first video where I introduce you to myself, my boys. I tell you a little bit about my husband because I just want you guys to know a little bit more about me, and I don't want to spend this whole video being like, hey, let's catch up. Here's who I am. But definitely check out that first video. I will link it in the description box and we're gonna jump in. So if you guys have not also, make sure you check out the video that I did prior to this one called Why I Got Off Birth Control, because this month I'm basically going through my journey into being a mom. A lot of people might look at social media and think, oh my gosh, look at their beautiful family. Oh my gosh, they perfectly stair-step their kids. And none of that is what happened. Really, we just said yes to God. We trusted God and said, okay, well, if you keep allowing these pregnancies, then clearly this is what you meant for our family. And it's funny because sometimes I think back to when I was a teenager who had no idea about anything about being married and having kids, but I said, oh, I want to have my kids back to back and I want to be done by the time I'm 30, not knowing what I was saying, not knowing that I was going to get married at 25, and so I would literally pretty much have to start having kids immediately if we were going to have them back to back. But that's pretty much how things panned out for us, and I wanted to kind of start from that space because I want people to know that, one, following God isn't easy. Two, following God is not always fun. But three, that following God can be fulfilling. And on today's episode, it's kind of I would kind of give it two titles. One title might be, what do I really want this? Another title might be, what happens after you tell God yes? But it's tying to that next part of the story, which is why I said to go back and watch that Why I Got Off Birth Control video. But I shared that God really prompted me to get off birth control in 2016. We were at church. Pastor was talking about our level of success being tied to our level of obedience. And Holy Spirit just said so clearly to me, get off the pill. And I was just like, wait, what? We're not talking about that right now, Lord. We're at a youth rally. That's inappropriate. So since that time, things have, God is just, he kind of tells me all kinds of things now because I was willing to listen to him that first fateful night in 2016. But it wasn't just an immediate excitement after I said yes to God. So like I shared in the video last week, kind of where I left off was that I just prayed, like, God, if you would, please take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done. And I was willing to kind of follow God into the wilderness, basically. Like, okay, God, not sure where we're going. Kind of when he told Abraham, go leave this place and go to a place where I will show you. What does that even mean? How am I gonna go to a place where you will show me? What is that? But I feel like that was my personal experience of God saying, hey, instead of you getting all 5 years, 10 years down the line, just follow me in this first instruction. And as you follow my instruction, I'll let you know what's next. And so, as I shared in the video last week, didn't get pregnant immediately after we got off birth control. And so I thought, okay, God is not requiring me to start a family yet. God was starting to make plans to get on other forms of birth control that weren't the pill. Because I said, well, technically he said get off the pill. So maybe I could do the patch. Maybe I could do the ring. Maybe I could do all these different things. And before I could even get all of that together, I got pregnant. And I remember calling my youth pastor, the pastor who had actually married my husband, and I called him. I said, does God tell us when to have kids? And he said, no. He said he just gives us instructions on how to parent them. And I was like, cool. So we out. We about to do our own thing. Like, thanks God for giving me confirmation that maybe I was just hearing you incorrectly, or maybe I interpreted what you were saying as we need to start a family when that's not actually what you were saying. But before we got off the phone, he said, I want you to know, Bree, though, that God is still the giver of life. So whether you're on birth control or not, if it's in his plan for you to have children, it will happen. It's going to happen. And I was like, okay, good to know. And literally we conceived our son that same night. Crazy. Like when I look at the time, because you can track your ovulation and all that, when I looked at my period app and all that, I'm like, wow, that was the same exact day that we had this phone conversation. And I felt this kind of range of emotions. One, I felt I can't say excited. I think more just in awe of the fact that God really does speak to me, and that I heard him clearly, and that I moved and then he moved in response to me moving. So that was one thing I was feeling. But then there was also this sense of panic and disbelief, and kind of looking at God like, are you sure this is for me? And I remember telling God, I'm not ready to be a mom. And literally he was just like, well, you have 9 months, it's fine. And I'm looking at him like, wait, what? He said, yeah, you don't, it's not like you have the baby the same day that you get pregnant. You've got some time, and we're gonna work it out, and you're gonna be completely fine by the end of this. And you might even, who knows, you might even be excited about it. But it literally took me, I found out I was pregnant in October, and I don't think I actually got excited about it until January. So those first, 4 months was it 4 months? October, November, December, January. First 3 months, I really feel like I didn't get excited till February. It might have been the end of January. So those first 3 to 4 months was a lot of time was spent with me just asking God, like, how could you do this? Like, I just don't understand. How could you look at me and look at what I have done and how I've waited, and the plans that I have and the desires I feel like you gave me? How could you take all of that and pretty much just throw it out the window? Because that's how I felt. I felt like, okay, well, if this is the path that I'm heading down, then clearly none of the things that I think are going to happen for me are actually going to happen for me. Because if those things were going to happen, they'd be happening in my timing, because this was the plan. This was the plan. This was the role. This is how we were going to lay all this out. And so if that's not what we're doing, then I don't even know, like, what's the purpose of planning? And I will not lie to y'all, we are 5 years in, and I feel like I'm just now at a place where I am comfortable planning again. Because as the title indicates, we don't just have one son, we have 3 children. So it wasn't even okay, you're gonna have one son and now you can get back on this career path. No. God was like, come on back here, and we're gonna spend some time just working on your heart and revealing some of your insecurities and your motivations for things, and really refining what's coming from you, what's coming from me. And it just was so, I would really say crushing, not even trying to be dramatic, but just crushing and thinking about the way that wine is made, or the way that oil is made. Oil, you have to crush olives to get oil, and wine, you got to crush grapes to get wine. Like, thinking about those things, it was a crushing season in that it required me to surrender all of my plans, my dreams, my goals, my aspirations, in hope and faith that God had better for me. Because that says, many are the plans in a man's heart, but the Lord's purpose prevails. And I had to have a moment where it was like, okay, again, is this God's plan for me, or is this my plan for me? And what does it look like to have his plans prevail over my own mindset and over my own thinking? And there was a fear that good things weren't necessarily going to happen to me. And it's interesting because then after I had Jaden, I was like, okay, so the good things are coming immediately. And that's not how it was. It was still this refining process. And I shared a little bit about this last week, but God does give us choices. He does. And he is so amazing in the fact that he is patient. Because for me, I've learned so many lessons in being a parent. I know my level of patience with my children when I'm telling them to do something, sometimes it's like, I don't want to hear your response or your reasons why you don't think this is a good idea. I just need you to do it. And God is not like that. He does not parent us that way. And I'm so grateful that he doesn't, because I have had and continue to have these conversations with God, like, but why this? And sometimes he answers and sometimes he doesn't. Or even if he doesn't answer, he's patient. He doesn't just strike me down like, oh, you want to question me? You did. Because I don't know how y'all think. I don't know where you are in your relationship with God. But I'm like, wow, God, you really could just take me out the whole game. Like, oh, you don't want to listen? Cool. You know, you see somebody on the side of the road and God's telling you, you should go give that person $5. You're like, nah, God, I'm good. And he doesn't even, he's like, okay. What? That level of grace is beyond my comprehension, honestly. And I just am so grateful that he does not parent me the way that I parent my children, that he is more gracious and loving than I am. And I think because he has shown me that side of his character, it's really helped me to grow as a parent and to want to be more like him in that regard, that I'm able to say, you know what, God, you give me choices, let me give my children choices, let me give my sons choices. And you know, let me even be open to them speaking with me about why they felt like the decision that they made was the most appropriate thing for that setting, right? And it boggles my mind, because I know as parents, we're like, well, I know what's best for you. I'm not going to instruct you to do something if I don't see any potential good coming out of it. And with God, not only like our understanding is limited. So even if we're saying, hey, this is all going to work out, we don't actually know 100% if it's going to work out. But if God says that, you can put your weight on it. You can say, okay, God, you're my faith, you're my hope, you're my confidence. And so if you're saying that something is going to work out for this, then something's going to work out for this. And I want to normalize the doubt and the fear that you may be feeling, even in the midst of obedience. You know, I felt a call to full-time entrepreneurship in 2016. And then when I got pregnant with Jaden and then left to go on, I guess kind of was maternity leave in 2017, I really felt like I was like, okay, here we go, full-time entrepreneurship. And so I just am waiting all the time, like, okay, Lord, when's this huge check or opportunity or feature or whatever gonna come? Because I know you've called me to this. And as I shared last week, when God doesn't answer in the way or the timing that you thought, you really start to doubt him, and then you start to doubt yourself. Like, well, am I crazy? Why would I think that this was a good idea? How could I think that I would do this? And if you're telling the wrong people, they looking like, yeah, girl, I didn't know what you were doing either. So then you have this double insecurity of, well, maybe God just doesn't talk to me. But I want you to know, just because you listen, just because you're obedient, it doesn't always mean that things are going to turn out the way that you think they will. And that's not always on you. It's not always on your shoulders. Sometimes we do delay certain things because we aren't willing to be obedient to God. But other times God's like, hey, I'm working some other stuff behind the scenes over here. And so this isn't happening yet because I'm working on this opportunity, or, you know, I'm working on this connection, or I need you to network with that person, but you haven't even moved to that neighborhood where that person lives yet, or whatever the case may be. And so it's okay to feel doubt and to feel fear, even in the midst of obeying God, because it can be scary. Like, typically what we fear is the unknown. We fear, for me personally, I fear losing control of a situation or not knowing what the outcome is going to be. And so it's okay to have that feeling even while you're walking. But that's the important part, is to continue walking. You can be in the midst of obedience and be questioning it, but it's still important that you are putting one foot in front of the other and you're being faithful with your assignment. Case in point, this channel, I almost didn't launch it. I almost didn't do anything with Mama 3 and Me. The week before I think I was gonna start working on content, I started thinking like, you know what, God, does anybody even really need this? I don't think I even said like, oh, there's so many mommy bloggers. Oh, there's so many mommy vloggers. I didn't say any of that. I wasn't really even comparing myself to other people, but I just thought to myself, you know what, God, I've done a lot of things that I felt like you were telling me to do. And okay, cool, they blessed that person. Oh, that person sent a message saying it was right on time. But at the end of it, I still felt very empty. And so I just kind of was like, Lord, I don't really know if I'm in a position physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally to pour out again. only to be left feeling bitter if I feel like if I feel like that effort or that idea or that motivation isn't reciprocated. And God is so good, because literally the next, I think it was that same week, maybe even the same day, I was in my counseling session, because I'm a big advocate for therapy and counseling, and you don't have to wait till something is wrong to get counseling. You can it's just kind of like maintenance on your car. Just go, just do it. But I was in my counseling session, and my counselor was like, do you have like a platform where you just share the different lessons that you've learned through motherhood? And I just started laughing, because I told her, I said, I just prayed about that. I just told God, if this is from you, please confirm it to me, because I don't want this to be another idea I'm just running away with and so excited about that doesn't really turn into anything. And after she said that, that was enough for me. Like, that was enough. I think I started shooting video content maybe that next week. I got my website, started working on my website, started kind of outlining what are the kinds of things I want to talk about on my page, because this is an extension of ministry. It's all ministry. If you are a believer in Jesus Christ, everything you do should tie into ministry, and not working underneath a church building, but just a ministry unto God. Like, okay, God, this is the life that you've given me. Here's a way that I am giving back. Here's a way that I'm encouraging people in my neighborhood. Here's a way that I'm using the financial resources that you've given me to help someone in need, because I understand that none of this is really about me. And so that's also what has helped me when I look at through all I play in my son's life and the time that everything happened. You have to think bigger. You have to recognize it's not just this small decision that you're making. There's a bigger plan in place. And if you're willing to say yes to that and to be fearful but still obey, then the weight and the responsibility is almost lifted off of you, and saying, hey, God, I did my part, so now you got to come in. Like, I did the natural part, now you got to bring the super to add to it. And that has been so freeing for me, especially in moments where I might share something or talk about something and feel like that was the response, God. But if I know that he's the one who told me to do it, then I'm like, well, okay, whoever was supposed to read it, or whoever was supposed to get that piece of food, got the food, or whoever was supposed to be encouraged by that, they were encouraged by it. Or maybe it's somebody who's not even gonna see it yet. You think about something like Instagram Reels, and you might post it in January and it might not go viral till June. And you're like, well, I had that already. That was already on there. But it's not about the immediate outcome, it's about your obedience. And if you're willing to say yes, then that's a really great first step. So don't be discouraged in moments where you start asking yourself, like, do I really want this? Or, I said yes to God and I'm not really seeing the outcome of it. I'm not really seeing the fruit from it. Just continue to walk in obedience. And again, if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, continue to come back to God and say, oh, hey, I'm just making sure I haven't missed the mark. Feel like this is what you're calling me to do. Are you still calling me to do it? Because sometimes he will redirect you and say, actually, no, I don't need you to do that anymore. I had this had these videos that I had recorded and they weren't uploading, and I was like, God, am I missing something? He was like, no, I need you to go a little bit deeper. I want you to talk more about this part of it. And he reordered my steps, and then I was able to re-record, and then I had some better content. So just be willing to be obedient, be willing to be uncomfortable, and be okay with, again, I'm normalizing the fact that you might have doubts even in the midst of the decision that you're making, where you're like, God, I still don't know if this is you 100%, but I am a testament, and I will say that probably in every video, I'm a testament to the fact that if it's God, he will show you, he will confirm it, you will know that he has spoken. And if it's not an opportunity that doesn't mean you need to beat yourself up. Oh, I thought I heard from God and I heard him incorrectly. Just be excited about the fact that you are keening and tuning your ears in to listen to what he's even saying. And just be like, hey, God, I'm not really sure how I missed that. I'm not sure how I interpreted this as this over here, but it's fine. So even in the midst of me being pregnant and crying, God was still forming a baby on the inside of me. He didn't stop the process just because I was in a season of doubting. And when that time came, when I finally had that excitement, it didn't just happen overnight. I mean, it did truly feel like a switch, but I understand looking back that it was the fruit of God having developed everything that he had started on the inside of me. And the excitement was it just coming to fruition. It just manifesting that I did trust in him, and that I was confident in him, and I did trust his plans for me, and not just for me, but for my family. Not even knowing, again, at that time, that not only would I have one son, but that I would have three, and that he would use each of them strategically to teach me something different. And that it wasn't even just about them and me, that the relationships that they have with our parents, with their friends that they'll meet, with the schools that they go to, like, it's all happening strategically. So don't be discouraged if you feel like you are in a season where you said yes to God and you're like, well, I'm not really seeing the outcome of this. As I said last week, and as I said, I think even earlier in this video, God is faithful to fulfill his promises. If you are being obedient and you feel like God told you a specific thing is going to happen, of course, be flexible, because plans can change, or we can think we're hearing God saying one thing and we might have just been hearing him partially. Still be okay with not knowing. And still be okay with showing up even if you have a little bit of doubt. I think about the scripture that says faith the size of a mustard seed can say to a mountain, move, and it can be cast into the sea. So even if you just got some mustard seed size faith that says, God, this may not work out, but there's a part of me that wonders if it will, let that be enough. Let that be sufficient, and continue to make one decision after the other, and trusting and hoping that God will honor it. So I hope this was an encouragement to you. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to my channel, check out the first video, why I got off birth control, because again, these few episodes that I'll be shooting over the next few weeks are kind of a series, and just me sharing different parts of my pregnancy journey with our first son, Jaden. And all the stuff that I'm talking about is something I talk about in my book, Walking on Water. It's a 21-day devotional on faith, and I just walk people through the various emotions that I felt when I was going through my pregnancy, and how it shined a bigger light on other areas where I needed to trust God, or where I was being called to do something scary. So definitely check that book out. I will put that in the description box. I love you guys so much. I appreciate all the time that you spend with me, being here on this channel, liking the video, subscribing, sharing videos with your friends, and please share this with anybody who might be in a similar season where they feel like, hey, I'm listening to God, I'm trusting God, and there's a part of me that's wondering if I even want this. It's all a part of the process. So drop me a comment below. Let me know what has happened to you in your life where you did it and you were really excited about it maybe in the beginning, and then you had a moment where you thought, what did you just do, sis? Or if you maybe were freaking out in the very beginning, but you still pushed through it. I would love to know more about how you are trusting God in this season, and how he's building your faith. And I think that's it. Follow me on Instagram if you're not already. Again, description box, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.